Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as usual, on every Wednesday, we have the great Coach Desi, who's actually coaching me up on my shoulder stuff. And I call on her in the morning. She answers, she gives me advice. So I appreciate you, Coach Desi. And I appreciate everybody that's tuning in right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And of course, as always, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up, they will double your deposit up to $100 if you use the promo code Crocky. All right, that's CROCKY, Crocky. So go to Underdog Fantasy right now. Get in on the live action, the playoff action, which is funny because I was yesterday. I'm scrolling through and I'm like, okay, what do I want to play for the 49ers this weekend? And I'm looking, all right, well, what players? I'm looking at all the lines that they have. And I'm like, okay, I see this CJ Stroud and I see this quarterback, and I'm scrolling through and scrolling through. And I'm like, what are the 49ers? Oh, they got a bye week, number one seed in the NFC. So you guys don't play this week. That's great, but you can still play Underdog Fantasy. Just download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. Let's go. Fun stuff, fun times, not just for the 49ers, for myself. My wife and I, we've been kind of like moving around, like, okay, we want to buy a house. And in Stockton, where I'm from, they have Spanos, which Spanos, they own the Chargers, but they're from Stockton. They own a large portion of Stockton when it comes to real estate. And we're looking at these new houses and everything that are being built. We're like, man, this is pretty sweet. So we're trying to figure out, like, all right, how do we get into these houses? How much is it? 600 something? I mean, the market's crazy in California. You're going to pay a lot, kind of regardless. But you have to kind of decide between, do you, and I don't know, you can give me your thoughts on this as well. Do you go a little cheaper? And when I say a little cheaper, again, we're talking about Stockton, California, not the Bay. Because my co-host Peacock, what he paid for his house, drastically different pay in the Bay Area. I mean, it's a lot. But even then, you can buy a older home that you're gonna probably have to redo the kitchen and the bathrooms and all type of stuff, but still roughly around, if you want a decent neighborhood, $550,000. Or you can buy a brand new house that you get to pick everything out, and after upgrades and everything is looking like it'll be around 650. Which route would you go?
That's tough because we've built our first two houses from the start, and we were able to watch it and monitor, and people cut corners all the time. So if you can't watch them build it, I'm a little bit hesitant, only because the house we're in now, first time we bought this house where we didn't watch it get built. It was only 4 years old. We've replaced the roof, we've replaced the AC, we've replaced the washer dryer, we've replaced the dishwasher, and we've only been in this house for like since 2019, and it was only like 4 years old when we bought it. So I don't know, there's part of me that's like, if it was built long enough where people cared about quality, it may be better to go that route. But
Wow, that's a unique perspective I haven't heard yet. I'll definitely take that into consideration. Like I have about my injuries, my shoulder, but Eric Crocker isn't the only one with a bum shoulder right now. Jason Verrett, I feel bad for him. I don't know if there's anyone in this world that is mentally stronger than Jason Verrett to have to overcome the injuries he's had and just keep coming back. And every time he gets hurt, I'm thinking, it's over. It's over for him. It's done. And then it's like, Croc, maybe it's done for you, but it is not done for me. I'm coming back. But he has hurt his shoulder. So what's going on with Jason Verrett?
he's got the Eric Crocker injury, but a lot worse. So his,
Oh,
his injury, like yours was a different scenario, as we spoke last week, that yours was a chronic issue versus his is acute, meaning that this injury happened from an actual injury at the time. So your injury happened a while ago. It kind of healed. You were doing okay. And then you started to notice some problems, later down the road. This was right when the injury happened, when he fell right on the shoulder. It tore that the connective tissue there in the shoulder that is much like the meniscus. It's a cushion there called the labrum, and he tore that and will have to have surgery. It's another season-ending injury. I think it's his sixth. I think I've seen some people say sixth, some people say eighth season-ending injury. So it's interesting what you say, because there's also the definition of madness or crazy is doing the same thing and not, and expecting a different outcome. Jason may have something that's like a connective tissue disorder that predisposes him to these injuries. There's other things that could be causes as well. But at some point, someone has to like decide. It's almost like in orthopedics when we see runners. Runners, people are just they run all the time, every day. That's their sport. They love it. And then when you have to sit down and tell them that they've got arthritic changes in their knees and that they're going to have to slow down, back off, or actually stop running, it is devastating. And it's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, but sometimes it's inevitable. So unfortunately, in his case, it's time to transition to a different role in football. I think, coaching. I mean, people love him, so he's got great energy. He's got that mentality. Use it to help cater these newer people that are coming into the NFL, these newer players. Use it towards good, but I think your body has been through enough. So, yeah, it's tough.
This is tough again. I root for the guy. I know some of his cousins and things like that, and I've always been a fan from afar. But I'm even more of a fan, not because he ended up playing with the 49ers, but just to see just the resiliency and just the mindset of just really never giving up. And it's easy from the outside looking in and say, man, just stop playing. But there's something that lights a fire under him that keeps him going and, working really hard through the rigorous, rehabs and all these different things that keep his body in a position to where he can, at the very least, try or attempt to come back. So I appreciate that with Fiva. And hopefully he has a speedy recovery. And I'd love to see him. And again, I don't want to see him keep getting hurt. But I just love to see him, whatever it is in his mind that's telling him, like, nah, man, like, figure it out. Like, just try, like, keep pushing. Whatever that voice is, I always want to see him overcome it. So, room for him, room for a speedy recovery. But that's tough luck, especially for a guy who was potentially depth at the cornerback position. I don't know how much he would have played in a scenario where it wasn't, week 18 when you're sitting a lot of guys. Maybe if it weren't for that, he wouldn't have been gearing up to play. But regardless, hope he recovers well.
You know what I find interesting? There was so much talk about Christian McCaffrey and his injury potential and all of that. And here's a guy who's had at least six season ending injuries. And we took him, right? We signed him. We did the thing. So it's just, it's an interesting dichotomy when you think about the different positional players and how maybe the views on injury is different. But from a business standpoint, it's much like when I said I don't know that I would have last year. I think you asked me about OBJ coming to the 49ers, and I was like, no, I don't think so. And I probably would have said the same. Sorry, Jason Barrett. I love you. Any 49er, any athlete, it's tough. You're going to come to that point, though, in your career where you gotta hang up the cleats, and I think we're right there. So
you just kind of touched on OBJ a little bit, and you see kind of his situation over with Baltimore. They gave him a lot of money for someone who, I don't want to say looks like a shell of himself, but it definitely isn't like prime Odell. So we're going to continue to kind of watch on him throughout the playoffs to see what happens there. But pay him a lot of money. What I think base was like 15 million, and he had a chance to earn up to 18 million, like, which is crazy for where Odell is at right now in his career.
yeah.
All right. We got some good stuff to talk about here, and it was a conversation that started on social media a lot. A lot of conversations start on X, aka Twitter. All right, and a buddy of mine called last night. My guy Chris Roscoe's, he might be in the chat right now. Matter of fact, he just
Yeah, what's
commented.
up? There he is.
All right, so Chris called me last night, and he's like, all right, Croc. It kind of started around CJ Stroud versus Brock Purdy, and then he got into the ranking all the quarterbacks, and that's tough, right? It's tough to just flat out rank quarterbacks that play for different teams and whatnot. But interesting and great conversation, and we said, you know what? Let's pick up that conversation here. So I don't know if we should do it where we're breaking it down just all the playoff quarterbacks, because that's a lot of different names to try to slot, or if we should go NFC quarterbacks, and then maybe we can get into the guys in the AFC. I think the conversation, the way he intended on it being discussed, was all quarterbacks. So I'll briefly kind of go through a general ranking that I saw on social media that ranked all the quarterbacks. All right, so you guys listen, and oh, okay, here we go. Grant and Ryan G. Hensley started the conversation. All right, so shout out to those two guys right there. All right, but stay with me here. I'm going to rank all 14 quarterbacks. This is not my rankings. This is a ranking that I just kind of saw, and then we'll discuss the rankings. We'll do it that way. All right, at 14, they had Kenny Pickett, quarterback of the Steelers. They're basically saying he is the worst quarterback in the postseason. At 13, they have Brock Purdy. No, I'm joking, not Brock Purdy. They have Baker Mayfield. All right. Baker Mayfield, quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who actually had a solid season this year. At 12, this guy has Joe Flacco. All right. This guy has Joe Flacco at 12. At 11, Jared Goff. At 10, Brock Purdy. And I'm not joking this time. They really have Brock Purdy at 10. So they're basically saying there are 9 other quarterbacks. Oh, he said Pickett is not playing. Well, okay, then Mason Rudolph. All right, Mason Rudolph is last. Regardless, whoever Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback is, he's last. So whether it's Rudolph or whether it's Pickett, he's going to be last. Okay. All right. But anyways, at 10, Brock Purdy. At 9, Tua Tagovailoa. At 8, Jalen Hurts. At 7, Jordan Love. At 6, Matthew Stafford. At 5, CJ Stroud. At 4, Dak Prescott. At 3, Josh Allen. 2, Lamar Jackson. And 1, Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is just a random list. I just needed kind of something to go off of to kind of start the conversation a little bit. But as it pertains to Brock Purdy, because this is kind of circling around Brock Purdy, I already see certain names that's higher than Purdy on this list that I would just, no matter what team I'm coaching, I would likely take Purdy over these guys. So, Tua, nothing against Tua, but regardless of what team I'm coaching, I would take Brock Purdy over Tua. I think if I took Tua off of Miami and I plugged in Brock Purdy, I feel like they would not only not lose a beat, I think they potentially play better. I think they might be even more efficient. I think Brock Purdy moves a little better. Their arms probably very similar in sense of arm strength, but the big thing with Tua is his accuracy. His accuracy. Well, I don't think he's any more or less accurate than Brock Purdy, or I say less accurate, but I mean I don't think he's more accurate than Brock Purdy. So I like the efficiency from Purdy. I feel like I know a little bit more of what I'm getting from Purdy. So as it pertains to Tua versus Purdy, I would take Purdy on any team over Tua on any team. Does that make sense at all? That kind of conversation.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
All right. So got Purdy still. Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is very specific. I think the way to utilize him is very specific. I like him. I probably wouldn't have had this conversation a year ago. Matter of fact, it kind of popped up, and I'm like, people are tripping. Like Jalen Hurts, he's moving up, moving up. He's doing very well. But I think we may have seen kind of the peak version of Jalen Hurts and what he is as a quarterback. And again, I feel like took, if you could just swap the teams, or you could put Brock Purdy on Philadelphia Eagles, and I feel like I would take Brock Purdy over Jalen Hurts. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy. Actually, it might not sound crazy to 49 fans, but I really like the thoughts of Purdy on Philly being better, more consistent in the passing game, probably utilizing the run game more. But I like that. Chris said he wants the link in the chat. All right, so we're gonna put the link in the chat for Chris so we can bring him on too to have this conversation. I should have like a graphic or something that kind of shows these quarterbacks so people can actually see it, because I know it's kind of hard to just remember everything. The other quarterbacks that they have ahead of Brock Purdy, you got Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Mahomes. Part of the conversation was, and I didn't preference this part, but how they have played in the postseason. Okay, here we go. He might phrase it better. Go ahead, Chris.
So, Croc.
What's up, man?
Oh man, chill. What's up, Coach Desi?
Hey, you got some lemonade for me?
Lemonade. Oh God, yeah. Lemonade is so trash. Hey, listen. So, how we did our criteria? Because Grant Cohn and Ryan Hensley, they both kind of just did it off of careers. But when we all talked about it, and this was not a Niner space. We had the Rams. We had Rams fans in there. We had Stiller fans in there. We had Ravens fans in there. We had who else? We had just a bunch of different fans, right? So this wasn't a biased type of list or anything. But when we did our list, and when we did like the consensus of everybody in the chat, so our criteria was 60% of what they did this year and 40% of if you did, playoff history and stuff, right? So based on that criteria, I'll do it like you did from worst to first. We had Mason Rudolph at number 14. We had Tua at number, because remember, Tua's never played in a playoff game. And I don't even think Tua's playing his best ball right now. He was terrible against the Bills. He's 1-5 against top teams. But so I got Tua. We got Tua at 13. We got Jordan Love at 12. We got C.J. Stroud at 11. We got Baker Mayfield, who has a playoff win and is actually playing really good football. We got him at wait 14, 13,
10.
12, 11, 10.
10.
10. We got Jalen Hurts at 9. We gave Jalen Hurts some credit, even though he's stinking up the place right now. He also, that Super Bowl performance, you cannot forget that performance. The man was all world. Then Jared Goff, Dak Prescott at 7, Flacco at 6, Brock Purdy at 5, Lamar at 4, Allen at 3, Stafford at 2, Super Bowl champ, and Patrick Mahomes at number 1. How do you feel about that list?
I like that one better than the one that
Yeah,
Croc.
I don't know, where'd you find that one?
I think it was somebody that he just listed. I think just like a power rankings of quarterbacks in the postseason.
He gonna put Kenny
I
Pickett.
don't, but how they put CJ Stroud 5th? He's a rookie, man. Like he has no
Exactly.
I don't know.
If I had to guess, because part of the conversation I was having, right, was really more so of if you put this quarterback in this offense or this quarterback in that offense, like what would it look like? Like almost essentially on if you had to pick, if you had a random team, which quarterback would you rather have? And I think that's how I believe he intended it. Again, that's a different conversation than what Roscoe put in.
Yeah,
but let's say if your team was the Chicago Bears, would you rather have CJ Stroud on the Chicago Bears or Brock Purdy on the Chicago Bears?
I mean, 9 out of 10 times, everybody's going to pick C.J. Stroud because of the.
So I think that's in the sense of his rankings. These ones is more power rankings from that standpoint, as opposed to factoring in playoff experience.
Factor in playoff experience and what they did this season.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that's how we came up with it. But shout out to Grant and Ryan, because my guy Eddie in the space, he said he watched Grant and Ryan and how they did the rankings, and we had a space on in the space. It was a great space. We all talked about it. I mean, the only person that kind of everybody was kind of just iffy on was Joe Flacco, because again, the last time we seen Flacco in the playoffs was 2014.
Yeah. Long time ago. And not only that, the last time prior to this stretch that he just went crazy over the last 4 weeks or whatever for Cleveland, prior to that, the last time we saw him was like New York Jets, and it did not look good. Like he looked like, yep, I'm done. Like career over, done with, can't play football anymore, can't play at a high level. So to see him go to Cleveland, and that might have something to do with, hey man, this is a better situation for me, even though, I mean, they lost Nick Chubb. Shoot, you had Amari Cooper, and then everybody else is kind of like, a little bit. Njoku started taking off, but somehow he just kind of really shot that team up. I feel like he made them better. That was probably the best we've seen Cleveland throughout this year. A lot better than when the 49ers played them.
Njoku, definitely.
Yeah, he looks freer than when he played before. He looks like he's having more fun with it.
So when we did, like when it was just Niners fans in the space, we actually had Brock at 7, or actually at 8. But then when we brought in other people, and then we all kind of started talking about it, they put Brock to 5. Coach Jez, do you think Brock at 5 is fair?
I do. I do. I think anywhere 5, 6. I think that's all fair. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And who'd you have ahead of him?
He
Like
had Lamar,
originally?
Allen, Stafford, Mahomes.
Wait, originally?
Well, you say you have him at 5.
Yeah.
He had Lamar, Allen, Stafford, and Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahomes, Stafford, Allen, Lamar is ahead of Purdy.
So there was one guy that you and I disagreed on. Roscoe's. Do you remember that one from last night?
I thought it was Slack. Oh, Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott.
I
Yeah.
want to hear this. So what do you think about
Well,
Dak?
Croc believes Dak Prescott is performed well in the playoffs, just not against the 49ers. That's his viewpoint.
I think that the Dak Prescott's performances against the 49ers have overshadowed a lot of the good that he's done, not just in the postseason, but I think in general. Like if you talk to 49er fans, they have a certain perspective of Dak because of what he has looked like against their, I don't know, number one defense in the NFL every time they play, right? So it's like, oh, Dak Prescott, like, heck no, heck no. But if you watch him outside of playing against the 49ers and their great defense, he's a damn good quarterback. And I even talked about it like last year, and he keeps saying, well, it was Tampa Bay. But I'm just saying, if we're talking about playoff performances, right? Before he played against the vaunted 49ers defense, we're talking about a guy who threw over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against Tampa, like literally the game before, like wild card round. And then he plays against the 49ers, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, like this is tough. And I think the 49ers have made it tough on a lot of teams. Like he's not Mahomes, but even then, I mean, I remember 2019 Super Bowl, 49ers playing against Mahomes. They made Mahomes look like for 3.5 quarters, not a top tier quarterback. Like he played poor. He threw multiple interceptions. They had him looking bad. Then he made a couple throws. Tyreek Hill made a couple plays, and it's like, oh, whew, we snuck out of here and got this Super Bowl victory. But I think the 49ers, a lot of times, just because of how they're built, they make a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of times, look bad.
But Croc, this is the problem. So per DVOA, the Cowboys and Niners defense were 1-2 last year, right?
And I don't think Brock. You think Brock played very well against
No, no,
Cowboys?
no. Well, so remember how we talked about how Brock versus Seattle, he missed like 4 touchdown passes. It was a little shaky in the first half, and then you transition over to the Cowboys game. I actually thought he played better. The Cowboys defense was locked in that game. And I thought Purdy made some very good plays because at the end of the day, the way the 49ers win is on first down. And the Cowboys was stuffing us on first down. You go back and look at it, it was -3, -2, 0 gain, 0 yard gain, or a penalty or something like that. The Cowboys defense was locked in last year. And their secondary was so good last year. And I think Brock threw for over 200 something yards. He just didn't throw a touchdown pass. I thought Brock played very well. He made some very timely throws. He made some very important throws compared to what Dak Prescott did, who threw 2 interceptions. And we're talking about both guys and a rookie going against a veteran. And we're talking about one guy played a cleaner football game than the other, and both of them were.
When we say cleaner again, because all I can go off of is like who makes plays, who doesn't, right? So this is not
The
again.
throw the
If
killer
we're
was
just talking
a
about straight up,
play.
at the end of the day, 49ers won and Brock Purdy, like you won the game, right? But if we're just talking about watching the game, and I see Brock throw a ball well behind the receiver and it hits the DB in the hands and he drops it, do I put more stock into Dak hitting the DB in the hands and him catching it, or do I say, well, Brock threw it right to the guy, he just dropped it? Like 49ers defense made a play, Cowboys defense didn't. And I'm not saying that that's Brock's fault, but if we're saying, oh, these guys played a cleaner game, it's like, well, this quarterback gave that defense the same opportunities. They just didn't capitalize on it.
Brock played a more cleaner game. That doesn't mean he didn't have mistakes in the game. He played the more cleaner game. Not only did Dak throw 1 interception, he threw 2. And it was a stupid interception that he threw at Diamador Lenore. He didn't have to throw that pass. But he said, yeah, I'm just going to throw it because I'm a stupid quarterback.
You think that's why he threw it?
Bro, it was terrible. He should
You,
have
you
never
know, you know what I'm gonna call you right now?
casual.
Yes.
Wait, Croc. He double pumped it. And still threw it. And it was perfect coverage by Diamador Lenore.
Oh,
You cannot. He should never throw that football.
when Brock Purdy threw that interception against the Vikings, the first interception, Juwan Jennings route. Did
Terrible.
I ever say, "Oh man, like Brock, just why would you throw that?" Did you ever hear me say that?
No. We're talking
Why?
about
Why
both.
not?
I said that
Why
when
did
he
you
threw it.
never hear me
Hold on.
say that?
I
Hold
said that
on.
when he threw it against the
Answer the
Vikings.
question, Bosco. Why have you never heard me say, "Dang, Brock, you threw this ball and it got picked off. That's your fault." Why you never hear me say that?
Because you, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because of the receiver could have.
If your quarterback is playing with and trying to throw a pass with anticipation and he's
Yeah,
expecting the receiver to be in a certain spot and the
yeah.
receiver either slips or doesn't run his route or flatten off the right way and it gets picked off, I'm not saying that there's no fault of the quarterback, but I'm definitely putting that more on the receiver. And now I use a 49er example, and now we use a Cowboy example. When Dak Prescott is throwing a comeback route and you're throwing with you're trying to throw with anticipation and your receiver doesn't come back down hill and make that play for you, and he drifts upfield to where the DB is able to undercut it. At some point, we got to stop being casuals,
No,
Chris,
no, 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 no. Because again, he double pumped it on that play. He double pumped it, and he did not
because
have
he's
to. It was
anticipating heavily.
no.
I need to
It
throw
was
this ball.
perfect.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
it was
if I
perfect.
go if I go to
Bring
throw
up
it
the
and I
play.
see he's not ready yet, like okay, but now I'm gonna throw it because it's like okay, surely he's gonna turn around right now. I hate that he has me defending Cowboy players because
I
I
No,
was
hate
no,
thinking,
no.
Cowboys,
Hold on.
but I love football. I love football. I love
Croc,
football. I
croc,
love.
croc, croc. Hold on. This is like the Jimmy Garoppolo against the Titans. He threw it to Kittle, even though Kittle was covered. So you gonna say that's throwing with anticipation? He forced it in there. Dak forced that throw. You don't. You're not. You should not have thrown that football. Now you being casual.
So so so
Yeah.
we're faulting Brock for the Juwan Jennings interception. We're saying you should
No.
not throw
No.
that
No. No. You're not. I didn't bring up that. I did not bring up that. We're talking about Dak Prescott.
because
I'm not
I'm
talking about.
using the same context
No, it's
as I
not.
will for anybody, not just Brock, not just Dak,
So
not just like it doesn't like for anybody.
are you using that same? Are you
All
using?
interceptions are not created equal. They're
That's
not.
fair. That's fair. But are you using that same argument against Jimmy G versus the Titans in the end zone to George Kittle when Janoris Jenkins was all over him?
He threw it behind him. It wasn't even like a good location.
No, it was a terrible throw. He shouldn't have thrown it. Dak shouldn't have never thrown the ball again. When you double pump, Diamador ran the route for him. Ran the
He
route
did.
for him. It was perfect coverage. Croc, you're not forcing that in there.
All right. Okay. Okay. You got
I'm gonna let y'all get back to it, Coach Jesse. I love you. You do a great
it.
job. Croc, appreciate you. But yeah, I mean, I think our rankings, again, this wasn't just me. It was a bunch of people in the space. We came up with that ranking. Stafford number 2. I mean, who's playing better? I mean, outside of Lamar, who's playing better football than Matthew Stafford? And he's a Super Bowl champ, so we had to go with Matthew Stafford at number 2. I doubt
Yeah.
anybody. Y'all have a good one now.
All right, Chris.
see ya.
We got Gabriel in the chat. He says Crocky's secret Them Boys fan is basically my secret Cowboy fan. I love football. Like so I just like I literally sit here and I any game that's on, like I'm glued to it. And the way I watch it might be a little bit different than how other people watch it. So
Yeah.
like even in the national championship game, I'm sitting there with my bro Donald, and we're watching the national championship game on Monday night. And we're looking at these concepts, and we know Michigan runs a lot of man coverage. So my main thing that I'm focusing on is how is Washington going to combat the man coverage from Michigan while not being able to really protect their quarterback. So you see them have trips right, but they have a receiver or a tight end split out really wide, motions them down into a bunch. And my thing is, how do the cornerbacks end up playing off that? Do they press the point, stay man? Do they banjo the back two guys? How do they do it? Does anybody get lost in that? And then we saw that happen a couple times with busted coverages. So that's not me being a Michigan fan. I actually wanted Washington to win, but I could definitely appreciate how Michigan, for a majority of the game, was defending the bunch and just kind of the chess match within the game. Like to me, that's fun.
Yeah.
So definitely not a Cowboy fan. I just love watching football, and I so I'll use context with anybody.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's so hard to compare, right? Because we don't know the routes, we don't know where the receiver was supposed to be. So that all of that, quarterback, a lot of their ratings are dependent upon their other players, right? So it's tough to just do the one-on-one. They're two different style quarterbacks too. Dak could probably get away with a couple interceptions. He's got the arm. It's kind of the Josh Allen argument too, right? They throw a certain amount of interceptions, but they throw a lot of touchdowns. Now, Dak last year did not, right? Like that, they just talked about how many interceptions he threw last year. Now, were all of those him? Was that their receivers? Was it a split? Like that's the thing. And I'm not a Dallas fan. I didn't watch
If
every.
we had my brother on right now, he'd talk about these tipped interceptions and whatnot. But that had an alarming amount of interceptions. He put the ball in harm's way a lot. He threw 15 interceptions. He led the NFL in interceptions. And he missed 5 games. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't play 5 games and you throw that amount of interceptions. Like that is not a great year,
Right.
by any standards. This year he came back. He said, "I'm going to be as aggressive, if not more aggressive, and I'm not going to turn the ball over." And he threw 37 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions. I think that was a really good bounce back here for him, which is why he was in the conversation for league MVP.
Yeah.
We got Khalil Young here, and this is something good. I should have had Chris talk about this because I wanted to hear Chris. Chris, if you want to come back in, you have the link. I would love to get Chris's perspective on how I would answer this question. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and see if Chris comes back in so he can answer. So he can answer this because I'm the one that said Brock is more like Case Keenum, Taylor Heineke, and those guys. But I want to hear how Chris would say I would respond to this. So we'll see if Chris comes up. I'm gonna keep that comment started. If Chris doesn't come back up, then I'll talk about it.
All right. Do you want me to run through the injuries?
Wait, we got Chris. We got Chris. Okay, all right, real quick. And then we're going to run through the injuries because the 49ers have a lot of them. Chris.
Didn't someone say before the season Brock was more like Case Keenum?
So he's definitely talking about me. And shout out to my guy Khalil Young. Love it. How do you think I would respond to this? I only ask Chris because me and Chris talk every day.
I think you would be frustrated because somebody most likely took your words out of context.
Yes. Yes.
I know.
Or they pick and choose. He picked and chose what part of the conversation he wanted to like attach his thoughts to.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Did the All-Pro team just come out? So essentially, real quick, what Chris is saying to this, and we'll see if the All-Pro team came out. But Khalil Young says, didn't someone before the season say Brock is more like Case Keenum, Taylor Heineke, that type of guy? And of course, that's me. What I'm talking about is a skill set, right? And I also preference situations or circumstances, different things that have happened in quarterbacks we've seen, right? So Case Keenum, definitely someone I brought up. I watched Case Keenum have a terrific year for the Minnesota Vikings. And the tough thing you have sometimes with quarterbacks like that aren't the most talented guys, right, is you see kind of this, hey, man, he played very well, and then, is it sustainable? Not so much. So my whole thing with even Brock wasn't that he couldn't continue to play well or he could not sustain a certain level of play, but more so because of his skill set, can we watch him do it again? Like just be sustainable. And that was what I wanted to see, and he did it. So it's like, hey, he is not Case Keenum. He is not Taylor Heineke. I think he's doing a terrific job of not only continuing really good play, but actually expanding on that. So that's a great job from Brock Purdy to be able to do that. That was awesome. So
yes, so it did come out 2023 PFF All-Pro team.
All right, I'll bring it up and put it up on my screen. NFL. Don't say who's on it yet. Don't say who's on it. We're gonna bring it up on the screen and we'll talk about it.
Real quick, I have to compliment you. I listened to Locked On 49ers and loved who you put as the team MVP. I was in my car listening and I'm like, please say Trent Williams. Please say Trent Williams. I fully, just like Wink said, I was expecting someone to say CMC, Brock Purdy, but I loved it. So thank you for shout out to the Silverback.
What did you think of my reasoning for Trent Williams?
100%. All of it. Loved it.
Now part of it is, part of that is for the purposes of our show, just trying to have differing opinions, which Peacock and I ended up wanting to go with the same person. Then Peacock had to make, his argument for Brock Purdy. But just in general, just how important Trent Williams is to the 49ers and understanding like a lot of what goes through him. We always think it's CMC, everything goes through him, but then you watch a game where I talk about the first two drives and it's like two drives, two touchdowns. That ain't CMC, that ain't Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's Sam Darnold, that's Elijah Mitchell, and you're still punching into the end zone until he goes out of the game. And when he was hampered, we felt that. When he was injured, we felt his loss, like the presence of him not being out there. And a lot of people equated that to why the 49ers lost more so than anything else.
Yeah, I think I even said that on your show. I said
Yeah.
that was the biggest concern for me, was that we were losing because Trent's out. Everything runs through the left side. So, no, I loved it.
We got Chris Lavelle in the chat, and he says you can make the argument, this argument, but can we agree that Brock's IQ is through the roof? And the IQ is something that over time you get to see more of that, right? Like that's when we start talking about somebody being able to sustain a certain level of play or always get to the right answers, which I think that he does a great job of. Brock Purdy does a great job of getting to the right answer on a consistent basis. Because you can see guys get to the right answer. Trey Lance. I saw Trey Lance get to the right answer. Does he do it nearly as consistent as Brock Purdy? The answer is no. And I think that goes towards why we see Brock Purdy have the consistent amount of success that he has. He said, I saw PFF All-Pro has AP dropped an All-Pro. All right, so I believe, NFLPA second annual players All-Pro team voted by the. Oh no, I think this is something by the players.
I just see something here. It says the Associated Press has released its All-Pro team for 2023.
Okay, why? Let me try to find that.
ESPN has an article.
Oh man, that's probably behind that. I do see a PFF All-Pro team who has first team Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and Fred Warner. And then their second team, Nick Bosa, Brock Purdy, Cherries Ward, Kyle Juszczyk. Oh no, second team was just Nick Bosa. Purdy, Ward, Juszczyk were all snubbed. But PFF is different. They go more off of their grades in the sense of the All-Pro. Okay, here we go. Wait, no, this is still NFL. Okay, here we go. I think I got it, y'all. I think I got the first team here. All right, so let's bring this up on the screen. And this is not the All-Pro. This is the NFL. This is the AP one. All right, so let's bring this up on the screen here. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. Zoom in. All right, so here we go. Here is the first team offense. Make sure we're up. All right, cool. Here we go. All right, you got Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Christian McCaffrey at running back. Kyle Juszczyk at fullback, which fullback is new. They just added the fullback, which Kyle Juszczyk is probably going to win it every year until he retires. You got CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill as the two receivers, which I think they usually have three. I want to say they have three usually receivers, but they got two receivers here. You got Travis Kelce, who I want to say, didn't George Kittle lead the NFL in tight end yards this year? But all right, they left my guy off. I didn't think Travis Kelce had a better year than George Kittle. You got Trent Williams, Joel. Who is this? Joel, Betonio. My bad. I don't know who he is, guys. My bad. And Tyler Smith. That's pretty good. Ty Smith got it. Left guard. They got a tie. That's interesting. Tyler Smith, Dallas Cowboys. Is this Smith's second year out of Tulsa? I want to say it's that guard. Jason Kelce at center, Zach Martin, and then Lane Johnson. Are you surprised by anything that we are seeing or not seeing on the first team?
Other than what you already said about Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, I thought Kittle should have been there. So we maybe assume that Kittle will be second team All Pro. So should I look and see now if there is a second team All Pro?
Roscoe's saying that's the players one.
Nah, this ain't the players one. This isn't the players one. This is NFL. Oh, it is. Never mind, guys. It's the players one. Yeah, it's the players one.
Eddie wants to see the defense.
All right. That is the players one though. So he is correct about that. All right. So let's get to the players defense now. My bad, y'all. The writers one should be coming out pretty soon. All right, here we go. Defense. You got Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. Probably no surprise there. Actually, where's TJ Watt?
Injured.
I mean, but like,
No, I know.
he got hurt week 18. Didn't he lead the league in sacks? And his impact was felt. I mean, we're talking about interceptions, touchdowns, forced fumbles. Max Crosby over. That's surprising. All right. Dexter Lawrence, Dexter Lawrence, he was someone I won the 49ers draft. I didn't know he would go in the top 20 when he came out. I thought he'd go second round. And I want the 49ers to take him because they never have like a big body guy. But yeah, Dexter Lawrence, he's been terrific. Interior defensive lineman, you got Chris Jones, Aaron Donald. Linebackers, here we go. Roquan Smith and Fred Warner. Cornerbacks, Deron Bland and Pat Surtain. Safeties, Jesse Bates, Kyle Hamilton. And then here's some of the specialists here. So, Brandon Aubrey, interesting one for being a kicker. The Dallas Cowboys got him from another league. He's a rookie. Did not miss his first kick until this past week. So he missed his first kick this past weekend. Have been 100% since then. A guy that got undrafted. But anything surprising with the defense here?
No, I mean, I'm always going to be surprised by Nick Bosa not being on there, but I get it. And you're right. TJ Watt did lead the league in sacks, 19.
Yeah, I mean, and not just, because, okay, you got a lot of sacks. Cool. He didn't just lead the league in sacks. I mean, he led the league in sacks. He got forced fumbles. Remember, against the 49ers, he forced 2 forced fumbles and recovered one of them. I mean, this is a guy who really wrecked shop. Game-changing plays. So the fact that TJ Watt isn't on there, sacks aside, I mean, just his impact every time out there, that is kind of wild. That's kind of wild.
You feel like Mooney should have made it?
Over Cowboys kicker? Nah. Like I said, crazy thing.
Not Moody. Mooney.
Oh, Mooney.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be in the mix. Deron Bland had a crazy amount of interceptions. So, and he's from the 209. Shout out to the 209. He's from Modesto, though. That's not the real 209, but Deron Bland had 9 interceptions. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to keep somebody off the first team that has 9 interceptions, like that amount. So then if you want to go with Patrick Surtain, who most people believe Surtain is the best cornerback in the NFL, I could see how they, it made it a little bit tough for a guy like Mooney Ward. But if they had a second team, I'd assume that you'd see Mooney Ward second team. If they had a second team. Roscoe said the players are casuals. All right. Well, that's not like the real list. We'll see when and the only reason why I say it's not the real list. Players, one thing I've learned about NFL players, just from my time being there, a lot of them don't watch a whole lot of football. They'll watch film based on who they're game planning for and things like that. But a lot of guys aren't like fans of the game. Like I remember when I was in the NFL. Matter of fact, we did this thing uh, during not training camp, during OTAs. So first of all, they did this great thing that nobody really talks about. At least the Jets did it. I don't know if other teams do it, but during OTAs, remember OTAs, you are everybody kind of has a structure different. Some people go 4 straight days, then you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, which a lot of guys will start flying across the country or fly girls in. Or some teams like the Jets had Monday, Tuesday, then you have Wednesday off, then you have Thursday, Friday OTAs. OTAs, you're there from uh, 8 a.m. until noon. By noon, you're done for the day, for the most part. And that's your two workouts. Which before you get a ball in your hand or anything like that, you got your weights. Then you have your on-field workouts like just agility, strength training, all that type of stuff. And then you have an hour and a half or so of film, just watching different things, install, all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of continue to build on that. Anyways, uh, towards the later part of OTAs, they start having this 2 hour thing every day that you're on. And it's like I guess you can kind of categorize it as a life and decision making course. I don't even know what to call it, but pretty much they put you through anything and everything that you will go through as a professional athlete, whether it's finances. They bring people in, to talk about different finances, putting money away, saving money. They actually laid out, I have it somewhere. It might be in my storage in Arkansas, but I have like this binder, and in the binder it has laid out. All right, if you are if you're on the league minimum rookie pay scale at the time, 2013, it was $405,000. If you pay after taxes, if you don't have any kids, you're only going to make 260,000 of that. Based on that 260,000, this is how you should budget your money: phone bill, car note. They do all that stuff. They have it all laid out for you. And if you follow it, your money will last you throughout the year and you'll be fine. Uh, a lot of people don't follow it. So then they just end up going broke regardless. All right. But they put you through that. I remember Geno Smith was on my team. It was me, Geno, my guy D Milliner. There was a bunch of us rookies on the team together. And we had to pick a female. So they put this whole simulation on the board. You pick a female that you really like and you fall in love with, right? And then all of a sudden they take you down the path of like your decisions for choosing this person. So me and Gino ended up not knowing at the time, but we chose a stripper who only wanted us for our money, which Gino had a lot more money than me. But they only wanted us for our money. They She ended up divorcing us after 2 kids, and then the child support we had to pay. Like they put you through the whole simulations, the whole thing. So that part was fun. But anyways, there was another part where we would sometimes like play little games. Name the 4 teams in the NFC West. You guys would be surprised. I had to carry my team. When we had big groups, I had to carry because I was really a true fan of football. Where a lot of these guys just play football because they're kind of good at it, and they couldn't tell you a lot of times who was. They couldn't even tell you who was in the Jets division. Like, oh, is it the Chicago Bears? And it's like, dude, they're in a whole different conference. So a lot of football players don't watch a whole lot of football like that. They just kind of, and even when they're watching games, like game film, like all 22, they don't call guys most of the time by their name. They call them by their number. So they're like, oh, when number 11 goes in motion and he does this, woo. So you might be talking about Julian Edelman, but they don't even say his name. They just say number 11. So if it's somebody that doesn't really watch football, which a lot of them don't, they might not know that they're truly watching like Julian Edelman until maybe like the game. So I say all that to say, when you have a list like this and it's all the players that are voting on these guys, I don't know how much stock you can put into it because a lot of them don't really watch football.
That was going to be my question: is how similar is this list to the actual list that comes out? Do you know, like historically, is it fairly?
This is only the second annual one, so we'd have to look and see last year how close it was.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to it, so
I didn't either. I didn't even know this was a thing. Now the tough thing with the writers, they have their opinions and stuff like that. We'll see. But I I think the writers would probably be a little bit closer to being accurate because the players more times than not it's more so who they played against. So it's like, oh, I played against Max Crosby. Oh, I played against Max Crosby, and it's like, oh yeah, he should be on there. He should be on there, you know. But if you didn't play against Max Crosby, or let's say you didn't play against T.J. Watt, they might not even know that he's leading the league in sacks.
Right.
They might not know, you know, because us, we sit, we watch NFL Red Zone, we watch all these games, you know, we see his impact week in and week out. If you didn't play against Pittsburgh Steelers, you don't know. 49er fans know, or excuse me, their players know. Oh man, remember when we played TJ Watt? He had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles.
Yeah.
But let's say Dallas Cowboys. They might not know because hey, their offensive line didn't have to play against them. So that's interesting. I guess the NFLPA one, or excuse me,
Comes out Friday.
that came out last year. AP came out January 13th. So couple more days and the other one will come out. All right, real quick, we've been kind of rambling on about this, a bunch of different stuff. 49er injuries. Let's talk about it.
Good news, guys. We're getting the blueprint back. It looks like Eric Armstead should be ready to hit practice and be ready for game 1 in our postseason.
Wow, that's good news.
Stoked. I'm surprised by this one. George Odom, who tore his biceps tendon back in November, had surgery. I didn't expect him to be back at all. So he may be coming back and maybe ready for the divisional game, which I'm really going to keep an eye on. And I even tried to search up to see if maybe he had one of those fancy new surgeries that are coming out, but couldn't find anything for sure. I'm going to keep digging and see if I can come up with it.
Real quick, before we get, you know what? I'll let you go through it. And then I have a question about something that has come across my desk. But go ahead.
Okay.
Juwan Jennings.
Jennings finally cleared concussion protocol, so we got him loaded back into the mix. They think, like I said before, CMC looks like his calf injury should not be anything that's long sustaining, should be coming back. We've got a couple back injuries. So George Kittle, he's been doing better, some back spasms in his back. John Feliciano, day to day. Jair Brown, knee. They're hopeful that he comes back. Deshaun Gibson has the quad strain. Ambry Thomas had his surgery. And Taylor Hawkins, I missed this. He had some kind of injury in his wrist and he had surgery. So he comes in for that one game and he gets injured and needs surgery.
That's tough too because he got hurt during preseason when I felt like he was having a good preseason. And I feel like it was his wrist then. Not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he hurt something like that. And that kind of made him not make the initial active roster, which I'm not sure if he would have, but he was a guy that was playing well in preseason.
Was that the one? Did they release him? It was his hand or his wrist, I think. He fractured.
I think so.
He fractured it and needed to have surgery, so they released him, and then he came back after. So you're right. Yeah. Cleveland Farrell, they think he's going to miss a few weeks, so I'm not sure if and when he'll make the lineup in the postseason. And of course, Eric, you got some really good news on your shoulder, didn't you?
I am not going the surgery route. And the guy, he asked, he said, if you want to go the surgery route and knock that out, you can. I'm like, no. Coach Desi suggested against that, and she thinks I should do more of a cortisone shot and then do the rehab. So I'm going more of that route. I called you yesterday to say, all right, look, I'm back in the gym. I didn't lift for a month. I'm driving myself crazy. I need to start lifting some weights. And what should I do? And you gave me sound advice saying, stay away from anything that might be strenuous on the shoulder. Wait until you see a physical therapist. At least do 2 sessions with the physical therapist so they can get their hands on me and they have an idea of what's going on and what path I should take with that. And then obviously I'll keep you in the loop on all that. And yeah, I'm excited to be back in the gym. I've worked out every day this week so far.
But not anything that's gonna.
Nothing on the shoulder. I mean, even then I was worrisome. Yesterday I did a lot of biceps, triceps. I mean, I can't really. I'm trying to stay away from chest. I'm trying to stay away from shoulders. I do want to do back, but a lot of the back stuff involves the shoulders. So I'm trying to take it easy on those things. So I did a lot of biceps tries, and I was scared, like, okay, am I going to be hurt doing these bicep, different bicep workouts? And I was fine. I didn't feel anything in my shoulder at all. There's no soreness in my shoulder or anything like that. So I think I'm good there. I do have one question, and then we can get to this question right here from Albert about Drake Jackson, because Drake Jackson is a player. I'm not going to lie. I completely forgot about him. And I was on the radio yesterday talking about Drake Jackson. Or excuse me, I was talking about 49ers defensive line losing Cleveland Farrell. And somebody I just never mentioned or never even thought to mention was Drake Jackson. So we'll talk about him in a second. But peptides. What do you know about peptides? Because it seems like it's kind of like this underground dark market type thing. Big pharma doesn't want anything to do with peptides. I'm listening to these different health and fitness podcasts, and there's a couple guys who I've listened to for years, and they swear by the peptides and what they do, and they've had a couple people on talk about it. But it sounds like something that the big pharma people are kind of pushing back on and don't want you to do it because it's something too good. So, do you know anything about peptides?
I'm just gonna. You're referring to GLP-1s, the weight loss injections.
No, BP. This one exactly. BPC 157. It's and we see a couple people in the chat. They're on it. They're on it. They know exactly which one. It's supposed to be. And if you haven't looked into it, maybe you can look into it and let me know.
Yeah, I'll
But
look into it,
it's
let you guys
almost supposed to be like a miracle worker for recovery. And everything I've heard, again, I'm not a medical person, and a lot of times when you listen to a podcast and they're talking about it, they only talk about the great things with it. So I don't know if there are any like negative side effects with it, but so far, everything that I hear, and I've had a couple people when I talked about my tearing my labrum, and I posted to social media, there were people in the chat that were like BPC 157, like get it. It's I mean the recovery on it is crazy. I didn't have to get surgery. One of the guys that I was listening to on the podcast is a doctor, and it actually made him lose money because he didn't know that people would recover as fast as they were, but they ended up not needing the surgery. And he's somebody that does surgery, but he still recommended it to people, but just knew like almost like I think it was Viagra, where Viagra was for something completely different, and then they found out that it's like this male enhancement type thing in the bedroom. Uh, it sounds like people are really high on this, but I asked my wife about it, who she knows about everything. She knew nothing about these peptides.
I know. I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday. She practices like functional medicine, holistic medicine, and she's talked about it. And we talk about 5 million different things when we get on the phone. And I wanted to ask her more about it. So I'll be sure to circle back with her because I think it's something that's more like the functional medicine providers are doing it, and so I will definitely look into that and get back to you guys for sure.
All right, yeah. So next Wednesday we'll know if I should order some or not. But it almost sounds like and it's not just for your whatever's ailing you at the time. It's almost like a recovery for your whole body, and it just kind of hits everything. But it's supposed to like really speed up the recovery. I don't know if that's safe or not, right? Like kind of healing at rapid pace, but. Everything so far, everything I've heard about it has been great. And anybody that has brought it up, I mean, even in the chat, someone so they call it the Wolverine peptide. I mean, everything that I've heard about this has been great. So I'm like, okay, it can't be that great. So I'm interested in hear when you kind of dive into it. I'll send you some if you want to. I listen to Mind Pump. It's a health and fitness podcast. I listen to them faithfully. The main guy, and they're really big on different things they take and whatnot, but he swears by peptides, and they've had people on, and yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to send you an episode. You kind of listen to that perspective and continue to like listen to different things, but I wanted to get your advice on it before I just go ahead and buy something like that.
All right. Yeah, no, definitely do that. And I'll do my best because sometimes some of these things, if they're not being watched. So I just did some continuing medical education on supplements. They said nothing about peptides in it, but even like collagen, glucosamine, and chondroitin, and then even in some energy drinks, there's some specific things that are in it that can be laced with other ingredients, or there's some supplements that are banned, ingredients that are banned because they're not necessarily problematic in their form, but once you take them into your body and you digest them, they turn into something else that can cause problems. And supplements aren't regulated, so you have to be very careful about what you are purchasing. There are third-party companies that will take medications or supplements off the shelf and test them to make sure that they're pure and make sure that there's not anything else in them. There have been supplements that have been taken off the shelves and been found to have actual drugs in them, like actual laced with certain even prescription medications that it shouldn't be in there. So there's no one regulating that to make sure that doesn't happen. So whenever you do buy supplements, this part I can tell you, you want to make sure that you're utilizing something that's been third party tested, to make sure that you're getting something that's pure and what they put on the label is actually what's in there with no added surprises. So I will take a look at the peptides and get back to you.
All right, and from my understanding, specifically the BP 157.
I wrote that down. BPC 157. I have that.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the one. And we had somebody in here said, "Oh, it's for injuries or post workout recovery." I'll let Coach Desi look into it and then her give her perspective on it. But it sounds like some people use it as kind of a recovery, but it's definitely for it definitely allows you to heal faster with injuries. So are people injecting this in them as a recovery as well? Almost like a was it HGH? Was HGH kind of like that as well, where it was kind of a
human growth hormone, yeah.
Where it was kind of like a if something's hurting you, it kind of helps you recover a little bit faster or something like that. But
that it really was helping to build muscle quicker, helping you to just get further along.
So I don't know if this helps build muscle faster. I don't know. It doesn't come off as like a steroid the way they talk about it. Like it's not, or steroid in the way that we think of steroids. Like what Nees says here, just load up on a full cycle. I don't think this is like something that you look at from that perspective, but we'll find out. But all right, y'all. I've taken up enough of Coach Desi's time. Coach Desi, I appreciate you for coming in today, and we're going next time you come on, we'll talk about getting ready for the 49ers playoff game and some peptides.
Yes. Good.
All right. Appreciate everybody else that tuned in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next Monday. Peace.